You know, I don't usually jump on knife trends immediately as they're happening because I see no need to do that. But on this occasion, I decided to go for it. The reason I say that is because this knife is currently half price, and I think it's quite a good knife. Now, I've only had this about a day. I just received it today. I've had it in my pocket most of the day, and I've been playing around with it, and I'm quite happy with it. So this is the Sog Terminus. So if you're in any knife groups or anything like that, you follow knife related channels, you've probably seen this knife around a lot recently. That's because Knives and Tools have it for a very reasonable price of 36 British pounds, plus I think it's £3 or £4 shipping, bringing it to just under £40, which is absolutely fantastic considering that Knives and Tools typically sell this version of this knife. There is a black one, but they sell this version for, I think it's £56, and they also sell the black one for about £10 or £20 more. I'm not really sure why there's such a big difference, but the black version, the whole thing is just blacked out, the pocket clip, the scales, the blade. Now, Heine Haynes, and I just checked Heine before making this video, Heine Haynes sells this knife for a phenomenal amount more money than Knives and Tools, and for Knives and Tools to have this on sale, even though they already sell it considerably cheaper than Heine, is just fantastic. Heine Haynes is selling this for about £78, I think it is. Maybe that's for the black one. But it's about £20 or £30 more expensive than it is on Knives and Tools anyway. So £78 or £36, I think I know what I prefer. And the bonus part, if you're someone that absolutely loves knives to be completely blacked out, is they're both the same price on Knives and Tools. Now, again, the black one should be a bit more expensive, but both knives right now at the time of filming is 36 British pounds. Hopefully I'll release this video before the sale is over, but I'm not going to lie, I'm sometimes lazy with releasing videos. I'll sometimes film them and then I'll only get round to sticking them on YouTube about like a few weeks or even a few months later. So hopefully I'll just post it straight away. Anyway, enough blabbering on, let's have a look at this knife. And I had a feeling that I would like this knife, I just didn't realise just how much I would like it. Now, like I said, I've only had it today, it only came today, but it's been in my pocket most of the day, so just, you know, just doing my usual things. I've had it in my pocket while I was out in the shed turning on the lathe, and I usually don't like to have a knife in my pocket when I'm out in the shed because it's just something that weighs me down. And I mean, I'm in my shed, I'm in my workshop, I've got knives everywhere anyway, but I actually forgot I had it in my pocket. I forgot that I had it in my pocket while I was working, which is nice actually because it wasn't in the way. Now, speaking of things being in the way, I don't like people to know I have a knife, which is why I usually don't carry a knife with a pocket clip. This is a very deep carry, you can see there, none of the knife sticks out of the pocket, obviously other than the pocket clip, which is not too noticeable if you're wearing jeans. Although of course that silver colour will perhaps draw attention. I guess that's a personal thing. I'd rather people just not know I have a knife because I don't want to scare anyone. I don't want to attract any unwanted attention, that sort of thing. Now I'll just compare the pocket clip in that regard to a knife that does stick out of the pocket, and this is probably one of the best knives for the UK market, that being the Boker Plus XS. One of the first knives I ever bought, but you could see how much it would stick out the pocket, which I don't like, but it's still an excellent knife of course. And I mean that's a big deal, by the way, the fact that it doesn't stick out the pocket too much. UKPK, again, really good for discreetly carrying a knife, whoops, when you're not throwing it around. And the Manly Wasp, which is also doesn't attract too much attention, but you can see that pocket clip's a bit longer and a bit narrower. I tend not to focus too much on pocket clips, but this is one that I genuinely do like, and it looks to me like it's Is it reversible? Can you stick it on the other side? I would imagine so. I've not actually tried, but yeah, it looks like there's a slot on the opposite side. This one is tip up only, and it does have, of course, Torx construction, which I guess on a knife like this is fine. I'm more of a pinned construction kind of guy myself. Handle scales, of course, I opted for the tan and satin colour, although it does look quite nice with these black screws, of course, and black pivot. I think this is a much more handsome knife compared to the all black version. I'm not really a fan of all black knives because, well, I don't really feel like I need to have an all blacked out knife collection. I personally like to vary the knives I have. I like to have a bit of everything. I personally prefer traditional slip joints, so I typically don't buy knives like this, but this I really do like. And I'm kind of liking it just as much as the Manly Wasp, and there's a slight chance that I might actually like this more than the Manly Wasp, so we will get to that, of course. But I really do like this tan G10. It is really nice. It does feel nice in the hand. There's no hot spots at all. It is really comfortable to grip, to squeeze, although I haven't done any much cutting with it at all. The only thing I really have cut with it in the time I've had it is a bag of oranges, and I could not believe how easily it zipped through that. This thing from the factory, I'm impressed with how sharp it came. For me, my standard of sharpness, it has to at least be able to shave arm hair with relative ease. Oh, it does that. It does that nicely, and to my surprise, it even shaved facial hair. Not a test I typically try, but occasionally I do like to know, can this knife do that? And to my surprise, it did. And that's the factory sharpness. I didn't do that. I can't do that. I could sharpen knives reasonably well, but I don't have a high enough grit stone to do that. So the fact that it came that sharp out of the box is absolutely fantastic. And it even looks like it's got a bit of a mirror polish on the edge, which is absolutely fantastic. Can I focus this? It does have a bit of a mirror polish on the edge. You can kind of see my skin reflecting off it, which is fantastic because I've never actually seen a knife other than, say, a Mora come with a mirror polish from the edge. Now, this is not a perfect mirror polish, but my god, is that impressive. It is really nice and sharp. I do like the blade shape. It's not too aggressive, but in terms of UK legal carry, it is a bit more aggressive than something like a case slip joint or a Swiss Army knife, and those are typically the kind of knives that I prefer to carry. This is a modern slip joint work knife. That's what this is for. Obviously, being less than 3 inches at the cutting edge and non-lock-in, we can carry it here in the UK, which is why I bought it, and that's exactly why so many other people bought it. Now, this is not exactly a slip joint. Slip joints usually have springs at the back like this, which rise up like that when the blade is open. Sorry about that brightness there. This one is not like that. You can see it doesn't have that spring. You can see right through it, a bit like a frame lock. This has 2 parts. You might be able to see it. Let's see if my phone will focus. Anyway, you can see those 2 lines there. That's basically cut out on both sides of the frame of the knife in a similar fashion to a frame lock, and it has basically a small detent that goes into a small detent into the blade to create that action, because I don't really have any better ways of wording that. And you can see a few posts in there. I don't really know what to call them either. Obviously for the blade to sit against, my terminology is crap. Opening and closing is quite nice. It's not too difficult, it's not too easily. I think this is just right. There's a lot to like about this knife and not a lot to dislike about it. So then, what else should we talk about? Well, the snap, for one thing, is really nice. I mean, you could just hear that it snaps in really nicely. And all day I was wondering to myself, what does that sound like? It sounds very familiar. And it wasn't until about an hour ago I finally realised it sounds a lot like that, which is fantastic because I love that knife. Anyway, there's no half stops or anything like that. It's very smooth from this sort of position to closed. Not much of a snap when it closes, that's fine, but it's definitely not going to open up on you. One thing that I found very unusual about this knife is where the nail nick is, and it is a double nail nick. This is indeed an ambidextrous knife, so if you're left or right handed carry, you could swap that pocket clip to suit your needs, or you could just take it off. And I've only just realised this knife does not have a lanyard hole. That's fine, because I usually don't put a lanyard on it, but you could put one there on the pocket clip if you wanted to. The 3Ding on the pocket clip I think is quite nice, and as well as the texture of the logo on the G10 handle scales themselves. And we do have a what feels like polymer backspacer there. We've got a bit of a drop point on the blade there, which again, it does look like a really good all-round purpose knife blade. As well as your I keep getting mixed up between hollow ground and sabre ground. I think hollow ground is when the grind goes right up to the top, so I think this would technically be a sabre grind, but feel free to correct me. We've also got the swedge or false edge, which I'm a fan of, although it does give it a bit more of an aggressive look. And the difference in the colour between this part of the blade here, the grind, and the blade there is quite nice. I do like it. Of course, we've got some jimping up here, which it seems well placed, as well as this tab. So although it doesn't have a half stop, that does feel fairly safe. I mean, if it does close, you're not going to chop your finger off. Now, we do have a sharpening choil right here. It's nothing like the sharpening choil on other knives, such as the UKPK, where it's actually for your finger, or the Boker. It's nothing like that, of course, but this little tab here will keep your fingers relatively safe, and it should stop the knife closing up on you and giving you a bad cut. Now, that said, it does look like it is a flipper, but I can confirm that it is not, because it doesn't come anywhere near close enough. And because of the mechanism of this knife, you cannot flick it open. Some knives you can do that with, but because this is a slip joint, you can't. Had this been a frame lock, even though that's really far into the handle, you probably could just sort of squeeze your finger in there, and with a bit of a wrist action, you probably could flick it out. Definitely not the case with this. Now, for UK legal carry, of course, it is perfectly legal to carry this wherever you want, within reason. You can't take it to a club or a football match or a school. But other than that, you're pretty much free to do what you want with it. Personally, I would still think about when I'm taking this. I would not use this where someone could see me using it, although I try not to use any knife in view of the general public anyway. Again, I've said it a million times, I prefer something like a Swiss Army knife for UK legal carry, because it's just far less questionable. It's easier to explain why you've got that, even though you don't have to. What's the point in making things difficult for yourself? Although I don't necessarily feel like you should have to explain yourself. I mean, if you're carrying a knife, I don't care what kind of knife you're carrying, you should be left alone. But the law is an ass. Have I missed anything? I don't think so. Steel, for anyone that cares, is right there. If I can get it to focus. CTSBD1. I don't know what that means. I don't care what that means. I'm not really someone that focuses too much on steel. I personally rather a knife that I could sharpen regularly and easily over a knife that takes ages and a lot of money worth of sharpening equipment. I mean, I do it freehand by stone anyway. So there's that. Now, is it worth the money? Well, for what I paid for it, absolutely. For £36, I think you're doing quite well. In fact, I'm gonna go this far. I'm gonna say it. For £36, this is a much better buy than the Manly Wasp. If you're like me and you don't care too much about the steel, I mean, I am kind of interested. I'm a knife collector overall, but steel isn't so important to me. I think £36 is a good price. Now, in the 70s price range, £70 upwards, I'm not so sure. I was intended on buying it, but I'm not really happy paying all that for it. At this price, why not buy two? If I had more money, I probably would buy the black one, just because I think that's a really good price. Now, just before I end this, I think I'll just compare it to a few other familiar knives. You've already seen a couple, but I'll just open them up side by side. So here is it beside the Manly Wasp, which these two knives, in proportion and size and feel and all the rest, unfortunately I can't get everything in the picture, but my god, those two knives are very, very comparable. Now obviously both have their pros and cons. One thing that I really like about the Manly Wasp is it has that 3 half stops, if you like. It stops in 3 different positions. So I still think this is one of the safest knives for UK carry, in terms of it's going to be very difficult to cut your fingers off with this thing. But it's not the most comfortable knife. It's fairly well made. It's made in Eastern Europe. I reckon the Sog Terminus is probably made in China, like a lot of other Sog's products. But it's still a good knife. Now this, in some places, it can be a little bit uncomfortable. Inside there is a bit sharp. It doesn't seem to be a problem on this. They've actually went and rounded over, it feels. So that's definitely a big plus. What else can we compare it to? Well, everyone and their dog seems to have Spyderco UK PKs, multiple of them in fact. So they are just because everyone's got them. I personally am not a raging fan of the UK PKs or Spydercos in general. I personally feel like they're a little bit overrated. Well, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for saying that. People seem to love their Spydercos. Yeah, they're kind of cool, but I think they're a bit overrated, to be fair. What else can we compare it to? Well, of course, this seems like a good option to compare it to. The Boker Plus XS. Like I said, this is one of the first knives I ever got, but I don't really like carrying it because it does look rather aggressive and it doesn't feel the best in the hand. It's not really that great for what I want to use it for, and I don't like the fact that much of the handle sticks out of the pocket. In fact, there really you can see a massive difference. In fact, I'll just realign that so it's easier for you to see. That really does go to show how much this thing sticks out of the pocket compared to the Sog. I mean, look, the Sog is obviously quite a deep carry, which is a massive thumbs up. Not really much I dislike about this knife actually. Maybe I'll start carrying it regularly, maybe not, I'm not sure. I just make it up as I go along, truth be told. But yeah, this is definitely a great knife. Go and buy one while they're on sale, buy 2. Definitely a fun knife to have. I'm enjoying it so far anyway. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching and let me know your thoughts.